Hello, and welcome to Just One More Thing, a podcast about knitting and crafting. I'm your host, Janessa, and it's been a couple weeks since I last talked to you. I got really busy with work, and I got really distracted by being sick last week. So I haven't recorded. Actually, it's been like 2 weeks since I've recorded. So yeah, I had a bunch of patterns that I thought I had like spaced out pretty evenly in the whole process, and just because of one thing and another, like all of a sudden they were all condensed and like all needed attention right in the same week. um, and so yeah, I just got a little distracted by work, and then last week, it's now like almost the end of September, which means it's like smack dab in the middle of harvest season. And even though we had like a really dry summer and the harvests weren't great, all the farmers decided, well, I guess now's the time. I might as well just get it out of the field. And so there was like mass harvesting going on and all around my house. So I was just surrounded by corn dust and bean dust and road dust and my allergies went haywire. And then the temperature did this thing like it likes to do in Missouri this time of year, which meant my head just like tried to explode. So I pretty much did nothing but like lie in bed and live in a cold medicine induced fog all week last week. I was useless. Absolutely useless. But, and I should know better, like, to start well before I think those things are going to happen. If I can, like, start taking my allergy medicine and start, like, using all of my allergy relief techniques well before the allergies hit, I'm usually okay. But I don't know, this year, I let the allergies actually like start and make themselves known before I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to start drinking my allergy tea, and I'm going to start using the raw honey, and I'm going to start actually taking like the allergy meds, which I hate taking. They don't leave me feeling right, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to actually function in the world. So like I seriously try the whole spectrum of allergy things every year, and certain combinations work better than others, but you have to actually like start them before the allergies start, or it's really hard to get them under control. And then, you know, with the sinus thing, it just made last week pretty miserable. But even though I've been busy with work and there's some knitting that I can't show you, and I was sick last week, I still managed to get stuff done, so I still have lots of fun things to share with you. That's good news, right? So, I'm going to start with like kind of a fun project that is finished, and it doesn't look like much right now. I put a much prettier picture up on Instagram, so you can go check it out there. But I started making my own face wipes. So Brooklyn, like all teenagers, is like, oh yeah, I should wash my face. But then she gets distracted and she forgets to wash her face. And she doesn't wear makeup or anything, but you know, the age, it's just, your skin changes at that age, and suddenly like you gotta start washing your face all the time, even though you don't think you need to wash your face, and even though you said you washed it in the shower, like when you wake up in the morning you still need to wash your face, and you still gotta wash your face when you go to bed. I have found that she is much more likely to take a face wipe and wipe her face off than she is to like splash water on her face, suds her face, rinse her, you know, all that there is, you know, the routine that we all supposedly are supposed to do. I am also much more likely to take a face wipe and wipe my face than I am to go through like the whole process. But yeah, so I knit these teensy tiny little washcloths. They're like 20 stitches. I basically do it corner to corner. So I start with like, work up to 20 stitches and then decrease down. And I also, oops, here's the camera. I also did an I-cord edge along it. So what that does, it kind of makes it curl a little bit, and it makes it really easy to do that and like scrub your face. It just makes it a little easier to like hold. And they do kind of stretch out and, you know, get nice and big and stuff like that too. But it's just basically a mini washcloth with an I-cord edge. So nothing fancy. I didn't use a pattern or anything. I just kind of was like, yeah, this works. And I basically knit it to the size of like, yeah, that works. That's big enough. So I just got, it's a little glass jar and these little rags that I knit. And then I found, oh, I'm going to forget the name of the blog. I'll put the blog up here. I found a recipe to make your own solution to make face wipes. And on the blog, it calls for like using baby washcloths, because you can get a pack of like 10 baby washcloths for like $1 at the dollar store or something crazy like that. So, and they're, you know, nice and soft and perfect size for fitting in a jar and washing your face. I just thought, well, I'm a knitter. I'm going to knit my own washcloths. I have, you know, obscene amounts of kitchen cotton floating around my house. I can knit my own washcloths. I'm not going to go spend $1. That would be crazy. Right? To spend a whole $1 on baby washcloths. If I looked, I probably have a whole hoard of baby washcloths stashed in the back of the linen closet in the bathroom, because I don't think I ever got rid of them after the kids grew out of needing baby washcloths. They're probably still there. So basically I'm just saying you can use like any kind of small, gentle washcloth that you want. And then it's just a really simple, like distilled water, witch hazel, like a nourishing face oil, like coconut oil or almond oil, or I think they even mentioned like avocado oil was one of the options. Coconut oil is pretty easy to get. Maybe I did talk about this on the last podcast, because I feel like I showed you guys like I'd gotten the ingredients. But then again, brain cloud. So if this is a repeat, I apologize. But anyway, so it's like a little bit of like gentle face cleanser, witch hazel, which is basically astringent, a nourishing oil like coconut oil, and water. And you just mix those things up. And you put your rags in it and soak them, and then you can just take one out and clean your face off and rinse the rag out and wipe your face off again, and voila, you're done. And they work great. And not only does Brooklyn love to use them and I use them, but Emerson is also obsessed with using them, which means I'm probably going through the supply a little bit faster than I had originally anticipated. But I can't really complain about a boy who wants to keep clean. So I'm not going to discourage the practice. If he wants to go wash his face, he can go wash his face. That is fine by me. Ben doesn't use them, but he's an adult. He can do his own thing. So it's been very popular. Everyone likes it, and I highly recommend you do it too, because it's just a nice thing to not have to. I also don't feel like as guilty throwing the wipes away, and you know, paper product waste and all that clean earth jazz that I'm not gonna harp on, because everyone does their own thing. But yeah, so it's like better for in the environment, and it's keeping my kids' faces clean. Plus it's all around. So that project is finished. I probably will still like knit little washcloths, because the stash that I knit, we can go through it in like half a week. And it really doesn't take much to like clean them. It's a simple process to like wash them as we go or whatever and refill the jar. But yeah, it would be nice to have like more of a stack on hand of clean washcloths to put in there while I launder the other ones that have been used. I think that's kind of all finished object wise. I've mentioned the Violetta hat many, many times. It is now up on Ravelry. Yay. Soon, and this is kind of fun, big news, it will also be on the Making Things app. So, if you have not heard of the Making Things app, I think it's just called Making Things app. It's a web-based app, so it's not like a mobile app right now, but maybe in the future. For right now, it's a web-based app, but you can also, it is like mobile device, the web page is mobile device friendly, so you can definitely navigate it with ease from a phone, a tablet, an iPad, whatever, any device you have. And Making Things is kind of like, the best way to describe it is Netflix for knitters. I know, right? So it's a subscription. I think it's like $12 a month. You can go on to this app, to this web page. You sign in, and for your $12 a month, you have access to their entire library of patterns. It doesn't matter whose pattern it is. It doesn't matter what kind of pattern it is. It doesn't matter if it's simple or complicated. Their entire library of patterns is available for that $12 a month. You can browse through them. You can add things to like a list of things that you want to knit. You go, like, let's say you pick this pattern and you go on and you click and you're knitting it. And you know, it has a lot of the same features that like Knit Companion does. I don't know if you're familiar with that app either, but maybe I should pick a more complicated pattern. Like my Chasing Rivers pattern is pretty much all cable charts. And it's easy to memorize like once you get into it, but like setting up and like figuring out the pattern, you probably have to pay attention to the chart a little bit more. Well, you can bring up the chart on your phone, and like it has a little sliding bar that you can like mark which row you're on and highlight, and it has row repeat counters and all those kinds of fun digital things that make knitting on the go a lot easier without the paper pattern. So it's a really great way of like keeping track of your progress on your patterns and things like that. And you're probably wondering like, well, that sounds great for the knitter, but what about the designers? Well, the designers are being paid based on their interaction with their patterns. So part of your subscription fee is going to the designers when you're working on their patterns. So designers are being rewarded for in lots of ways. They're being rewarded for the community that they grow. If you decide you love this pattern and it's super easy and then your whole family wants one, and so you end up working on that pattern multiple times, I get that percentage of you working on that pattern from your subscription fee, like every time you knit the hat. So instead of like one person buying a pattern for $4 and knitting who knows how many hats from that pattern, which is great, I get like a smaller percentage of that $4, but I get it every single time they knit the hat. So it's more of an ongoing, I don't know, it's a very, very interesting way to kind of switch the paradigm of how we reward designers for their work, and not just for the patterns, like the end result, but like all their work along the way. Because if you think about it, your favorite designers, like they host knit-alongs, they have pattern support, they do all this other kind of work in and around the pattern, like even after it launches. And so it's just kind of a really interesting way to look at the whole relationship between knitter and designer and knitting community. I'm very excited about it, and I will be sharing a lot more about it like in the weeks to come as it's closer to launch, because I think next week is their official launch of Making Things app. By the time you see this, it may have already launched, so definitely go check it out. here's the website. And I think that this is going to be kind of how Ravelry put the knitting world on its ear, in the way that it opened up a world of like all new designers. You know, it was just so much easier for designers to get their patterns to the knitters, and there was this amazing interaction between the knitting community, and suddenly, like, you didn't have to have you could find community all over the world. It didn't have to be just local. And so it really grew the community. Like, lots of people got interested in learning how to knit, and it kind of revolutionized the knitting world. I think this app is going to be kind of that next step in that revolution, and I think everyone's going to be super excited about it. I know I am, and they have lots of great designers on there. I've been kind of on there playing on their beta version, and I just absolutely love it. Can't say too many great things about it, and I'm very excited that they agreed to let me put my designs on in their library as well. So you can find all my patterns there, all of my upcoming patterns, and that'll be a fun thing. I also have a couple of patterns that'll be coming out in magazines soon, and I'll talk about those closer to the time. Lead time for magazines is like really long, so I feel like if I start talking about it now, like, that's all you're going to hear about until like next spring. So when it gets closer to time, I'll start promoting those a little bit more. But that just kind of shows you some of like everything got really busy. There was just a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, and that was a lot of it, was those new opportunities for my patterns and for some new designs that I have coming out. So exciting, right? Now that's enough of like me blathering and like promoting myself. Let's talk about what I'm working on. I'm going to start with an embroidery project. I think I showed this to you last time. Let's see. The best way to show it there, because it's thin fabric, so it's kind of hard to. Nope, that's better. That's better. So the K, like for color, it's our monogram. I don't know. Oh, I'm seeing it through the back. That's what I'm seeing. I was like, oh, what is that? I really should have put like a backing fabric on this, but like once maybe this will work. Like, once I have the paper on the back, like, it's really not going to be that noticeable. That actually helps show it a little bit better. Yeah, so anyway, it's a K with all these little succulents on there, and it's kind of hard to see now because it's very much work in progress, and like, you can still see all the blue lines and stuff like that. But this has been kind of a fun little project. I have a couple of like favorite, like those. I really like how this one turned out with the little like red kind of flower looking pieces in between. Actually, these right here are my favorite. Let's see if we can, there we go. Right there. Those are my favorite. Those little tiny little like vine succulents are my favorite right now. I'm also kind of experimenting with some like variegated floss, and that's been kind of fun. So anyway, it's coming along. It's my you know, like watching TV, like needing to zone out kind of project. But since I've been working on it so much, the kids, and I can't find Brooklyn's project of this, but the kids decided that they often want to learn to do what I'm doing as far as like my crafty stuff. And so Brooklyn actually was doing like a really good job working on her embroidery project. I can't find it, so I don't know what she's done with it. But Emerson also decided he needed to learn how to do embroidery. And so he made, and it's going to be hard to see part of it, but he made something for his room with his initials. Can you see how big his stitches are? We start out over here, and they're mostly small. They're pretty even. They're neat. And then by the time he got to the M, he was like, oh, I bet I can get through this a little bit faster. Until we get over here to the K, like, that is one long stitch. That is one long stitch. I'm really surprised that this was broken up at all. But I was trying to teach him just like basic backstitch, and he really got the hang of it. He was doing really good. You know, I just, with a marker, I drew out his initials on the fabric, and he was doing, I kind of held it like this, and he was doing all of the stitching himself. But you could definitely tell where, like, by the end he was like, I'm just done. Like, there's a faster way to do this, Mom. You don't have to make such teeny tiny stitches. And I guess he's right. I guess you technically don't have to make teeny tiny stitches, but he was pretty proud of that. So I thought that was cute. I wanted to share. All right, on to knitting. Knitting. I am working. If I can get it untangled here. There we go. Maybe. There we go. I'm working on the Fading Point from Joji Locatelli. And here is kind of the progress. I've made it through the first 2 lace sections, and I am most of the way done with the first fade. The colors are really similar, so it's a little bit hard to see, but there's like a light, dark, right there. So through this garter fade section, and then there'll be another lace section. I am working, I don't know, the construction is a lot like actually it's exactly like the starting point. You start out knitting the ends, and in order to get the V, you're almost working kind of like a shawl shape, but you knit them to the middle, and you have like 2 triangle points meeting in the middle, and then you work from the point up this way to the edge, and then from the point down this way to the edge, so that you get kind of like an X look in the middle. It's a really interesting construction. It's a lot of fun, but I learned very quickly when I was doing the starting point that if I ever wanted to get it done, I was going to need to knit them 2 at a time, because like socks and mittens and sleeves and pretty much everything else that you have to do a pair of, I'm really good at doing the first one. The second one is not going to match, no matter how hard I try or how many notes I take. And once I get through the first one, I really have to like bribe myself into doing the second one. I'm like, I'm done. No, you're not. I'm like, ugh. So I am knitting them 2 at a time, which means it is kind of a tangle of yarn when, you know, you've got 2 balls of yarn when you're doing the color changes and things. But so there's 1 and there's 2, and it's basically, you know, you work across this row and then you pick up your next ball of yarn and you work across this row. And I've got my yarns separated in different little knitting bowls in order to keep everything mostly organized. It does get tangled a little bit when I set it up and down, but if I give it a good like shake, I can kind of figure out where I am, and everything looks good when it's all said and done, and that's what matters. That's all that matters. My chaos is I get it. I get my own chaos. Other people will look at it and be like, but I get it, and it's okay for me. And that's, as long as you get your own chaos, it's all that matters. Most of what I knit last week, the vast majority of what I worked on last week, was my Bexley popover, because stocking it in the round was about all I could handle on cold medication. So it's, you know, just kind of like a dark gray, and we're still very much I got to go like 13 inches, and we're not even probably like 5, I would guess. Not even that, maybe 4. So it's kind of slow going, but I'm okay with that. And it is just very subtly striped. The 2 grays I'm using, one is like a brownish gray and one is a bluish gray, and so like way back here it all blends together, but when you get up close you can see the stripes in it. So progress is being made. Slowly. Very slowly the progress is being made. Maybe by the end it'll be kind of like that, oh, what did I work on last year that just took me forever? The Comfort Fade Cardi, or I don't know. I basically like started a couple sweaters last year and I had them done like by the time winter was over. So I'll get a lot of use out of them this year, and then this will be like the sweater that I get a lot of use out of next year or something like that. It'll all work out. It seems like there was something else that I wanted to share with you, and now I can't remember what it was. I think that was it. It sounded like a lot more in my head when I was planning out what I was going to talk to you about, but now that I say it, I'm like, I don't think there is anything else. So, kind of a shorter episode, which is sad, given that it's been 2 weeks since I last talked to you. But yeah, I guess that's it. So I hope that you have a good week and enjoy your knitting. And if you want to know more about the Making Things app, you can comment and I'll give you some links and let you know all about it. You should definitely go check it out. And what else? I think that's it. So I'm gonna let you go, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.